I had the distinct impression that this was the kind of place where I'd find a shotgun in my face if I hadn't been invited. I was in a community of 3 double-wide trailers sitting in a semicircle, bordered by forests so thick you'd need a chainsaw to survive it. It was a large parcel of land down a private dirt driveway, miles from any major road. That is the Greenhill estate, isolated, quiet, and dangerous. Solar panels sat on the roofs right next to Starlink satellite dishes. A diesel generator roared nearby. To the north was a steep ravine, to the east, a gravel pit. Near the edge of the drop-off stood an old Victorian house, burned, collapsed, and hauntingly silent. Before you think this is just another rural wasteland, wait until you see what happens when the owner of this estate points his finger. It isn't a trick. It's a violation of the laws of physics. Timothy, the scrawny man who drove me here in a rattling '94 Dodge, waved me toward the back. "Right this way, Professor," he drawled. We passed through gardens of corn, tomatoes, and vibrant flowers. I walked beneath a rattan arch covered in thick vines. This wasn't just a yard. It was the work of a master horticulturalist. On the other side of the trailers stood the man himself. He wore nothing but denim cutoffs and flip-flops, a silver can of Coors in his hand. He was tall, lean, with a blonde mullet sprouting from a red snapback hat. His beady eyes appraised me, making me suddenly conscious of my Oxford shoes and glasses. I reached out to shake his hand, but he just lifted his beer in greeting.
Garden Joe was an amputee. The nub of his left arm ended just before the elbow. "Show me what you got, Joe," I said, feeling out of place. Joe downed his beer, crushed the can against his head, and tossed it into a pile of empties. He cracked the knuckles of his remaining hand and wiggled his fingers. He cleared his throat, let out a deep, resonating hum, and pointed a single finger at a bare patch of dirt 20 feet away. "Alcatraz," Joe shouted. A burst of milky smoke erupted from his fingertip, shooting forward at frightening speed. It exploded into the dirt. Why does a man living in a trailer park have the power to create life? His aunt, Sunflower, told me a secret about his birth that made my blood run cold. But first, look at what appeared in the smoke. As the cloud dissipated, a small fruit tree stood in the dirt. It was shoulder high, covered in brownish fruit. "Those are figs," Timothy hooted. Joe did it again, pointing at an old muddy sandbox. "Alcatraz." Another puff of smoke, and the sandbox was instantly overgrown with mature trees and dense vegetation. Joe turned to me with a gap-toothed grin. "Tell me how," I whispered. "Hell yeah, brother," Joe laughed. "I might as well get this magic out to the world. I got a feeling my time is coming soon."
Inside Joe's trailer, the air was thick. A 350-pound woman, Joe's Aunt Sunflower, lay on a bed in the back, ignoring us to watch an old TV. Joe rolled a joint with one hand and passed out cold beers. He told me his story, the army, the injury, the PTSD. He told me how he noticed plants grew faster when he was around, tomatoes in 3 days, weeds turning into gardens. While the men went outside to shoot guns, I stayed with Sunflower. She told me the real history. Joe's mother, Marigold, claimed he was a miracle baby, an immaculate conception. She told me about the Blackthorpe family, rivals who had feuded with the Greenhills since 1813. Joe believes the Blackthorpes took his sister Leanne for a dark ritual. As the sun set, I looked up at the burned-out Victorian house. For a split second, something large and pale moved in the second-story window. It wasn't an owl. It was watching the trailers. That night, we sat by a massive bonfire in the gravel pit. Joe was drunk, slurring his words, hanging on to a woman with a neck tattoo. He hummed that low note again and shouted, "Shaboozy!" The flames shot 20 feet into the air, lighting up the entire pit like midday. But then the mood shifted. Joe collapsed to his knees, crying into Timothy's shirt. "I can create life," he sobbed, "but I can't change anything for the better. I can't fix what's broken." I left the next morning, but the story wasn't over. A week later, Timothy called me, his voice trembling. Joe had gathered a posse of cousins. They were armed and they were marching onto the Blackthorpe property to raise hell. What happened on that property made me wish I had never picked up the phone.